Hi there, my name is David Marks. I'm the CEO of Outcome Ingenuity. I'm here to talk about high reliability. How do we create highly reliable outcomes? Many of our clients are looking for that secret sauce. What did aviation do to have such a low fatal accident rate? What has nuclear power done to prevent meltdowns of power plants? What the reality of it is we have to do good design, we have to help human beings make good choices. How do we produce better outcomes? Let me give you one example that brings the story to you. This last October in Connecticut, at a college campus, the unthinkable happened. A young 19-year-old girl was sitting at about 1:15 in the morning, propped up against the firehouse door on her college campus. She'd been partying and had come across campus and actually had taken an Uber over. Her sorority house was right across the street, but for some reason she wound up just propped up against the door in front of the firehouse. 1:15 in the morning, an alarm goes off. The door she's propped up against rises. She's intoxicated, she's asleep. Before she can get it together, a truck pulls out and runs her over, and she dies. It's a tragic event. For organizations, whether you run the fire department, whether you're the president of the university, whether you're the president of an airline or a hospital, you're trying to figure out how do we prevent untoward events. Now, there's three components to this. There is, how do we design the system to avoid very tragic events like this? The second one is, how do we learn from events like this when they do occur? That's the root cause analysis. The third one is accountability, because we'll all get stuck in this cycle of how do we think about how people need to be held accountable after events occur. And in particular for us in the Just Culture model, how do we look at accountability before events occur to try to prevent the event in the first place? The first one is system design. If any of you have heard me talk recently, I talk about three dice, that notion of how do we create three dice in our daily operations. The problem is we live in a one dice world. Let me give you an example. Each year, 2,500 kids are backed over inadvertently by their parents, just leaving the house, opening the garage door, and backing out. The way we can avoid it is to say, well, kids don't stand around big dangerous objects like cars, particularly when you hear their motor start up. That only gets us so far. The second one is to add the second dice, is to say, let's create a process where whenever you get out to your car, before you back it out of the driveway, we do the walk around. So it takes the kid to be in the harm's way, and then it takes us to fail to detect the kid when we do our walk around. We move from a world of one dice to a world of two, at least around that particular class of undesirable outcome. How do we prevent those 59 kids from dying? How do we prevent the 19-year-old from dying? Is to, one, try to avoid being there in the first place, but secondly, do the walk around each and every time we get out to our vehicle, which did not occur in the case of the 19-year-old. The third one, good system design, is to add in a backup camera on every vehicle. It's mandatory here in the US as of May of 2018. Now we got three dice. Good reliable design isn't saying, hey human being, you gotta be perfect. Don't show up at the wrong place at the wrong time. Good system design is building a good, robust system that can tolerate my and your inescapable fallibility. Good system design is adding in elements that it requires two to land on a one. Good system design says let's add in a third dice. And if other industries, or even any industry, wants to look like aviation or nuclear power, it's not about producing perfect people. It's about building good, robust systems that require multiple failures before we lead to an undesirable outcome. Now there's a problem in this as it relates to culture. There's the culture of us as a whole to say, are we going to invest in system design? But there's also the cultural component of the walk around. Am I actually going to do the walk around? And what we know about human behavior is the less and less I see the undesirable outcome occurring, the more distant, the more uncertain it is, the less likely I am to do the task. So if you ask yourself, you ask your friends, hey, do you walk around your car to make sure that there's no child or human being in harm's way before you back out of your garage? 98, 97 out of 100 are going to say no, they don't do it. Not that it's not intellectually the right thing to do, it is a good thing to do, and it's a way to prevent 2,500 kids a year from being run over. But we human beings have a propensity to drift. We drift into risky choices. And part of the task is designing good systems, but the other part is where human beings are components in those systems, is to help those human beings make good choices. And in this case, making the choice to walk around the front of our vehicle or the back of our vehicle, depending on the direction we're moving. That young 19-year-old that lost her life at the university up in Connecticut, there was no forward-facing camera on the truck. The fireman who drove the truck didn't do the walk-around. All it took was one 19-year-old girl going to college, coming home from a party, deciding to prop herself up in front of a door like this. And that one decision that didn't probably look risky to her at all, that one decision ultimately led to the loss of her life. Highly reliable outcomes, how do we produce them? That's what we teach in the HRO course. We teach the concepts of model-based risk management. The idea is that we should have a model for how we design the system. We should have intentionality. We should design our system deliberately to have the robustness it needs to have to produce the kind of result we want to produce. Living in a one-dice world, we have lots of failures where all it takes is one error to cause harm. How do we move to a world where we build good, robust, reliable systems around us as inescapably fallible human beings? That's the goal of HRO, and that's what we teach in the Highly Reliable Outcomes course.